Okay, everybody. So I am going to go to the internet and I'm going to log on to Lone Star. Okay, so I've got my Lone Star D2L up. And so if you click on your class, so those in the Cy Falls class, you just click on it, should just show up as Chad Cy Falls. And those of you over at Cy Park, it'll show up as Chad Cy Park. So you click on that, and you're going to go to content, and that is going to be where the assignments are. So then if you look at unit one, you should go and if you look at this one right here, this is the soft chalk. Be sure to do the soft chalks when I assign them, or try to do the soft chalks before the lecture. That's when they work the best. The students that I've had in the past say that soft chalks are best when they precede the lecture. If you wait until the end to do the soft chalks, then they become a chore and are unpleasant. So make sure you do those early. All right, and the other thing I want to point out in D2L is if you go into grades, and you'll be able to see your grades. So be sure to check that frequently. So here is the my apps for CFISD, and so for the kids at Cy Park, this is where you're going to go to find your textbook. You click on that. You click on the one that says sync, and you're going to click on this art history, Gardner's Art Through the Ages, and launch the course. Okay, everybody, this is what your textbook is going to look like. And so there's the different chapters right here on the left, and they go all the way to chapter 37. We'll be doing that like in May, or like right before the end of the second semester. And we're going to start here in just a few more minutes with chapter one, Art Through the Stone Age. Now, when you click on it, you're going to click on read, and then that will, in a chapter one, and that will take you to the chapter. And you just click on the left and right arrows to go through the pages, and you scroll down, and it talks about different things. All right, so that's how you navigate the textbook. One thing I want to show you is that under read and under chapter one, there are these bonus essays. I might be assigning some of these later in the year. So that's where you can find the bonus essays. And I'll be referring to 1-5, 1-9, and so on. So it's chapter one, fourth image, or chapter one, fourth image. Okay, about the sketchbook. All right, we made the sketchbook yesterday, and so I want to tell you about what we're going to be putting into the sketchbook. All right, so you will be taking notes in this class. This class is lecture heavy, and that picture right there are my notebooks from my art history classes that I was just taking up until recently. And I'm a slow reader, and I don't always remember what I read, so I take a lot of notes. So on the right side, each one of these columns is a different class. I took 6 different art history classes. So in this one, I used 2. This one, I used 3, 3, 3. And then this class right here, I used, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then even a 6th one over here. A couple pages in the 6th one. But I finally learned just how to organize my notes a little bit better. So I split it into different notebooks. I'm just saying I like to take notes when I read. All right, and these are what my art history notes look like. Okay, so I'm going to be asking you to take notes. And a typical student's sketchbook or notebook will look like this. All right, you can see the writing up there, and they fill their page up about this. This is very typical of my students. The overachievers do stuff like this. All right. And this was from my first year teaching, and these are printed. I'm going to insist that you are writing your notes in the sketchbook. But this is what an overachiever's sketchbook looks like. Here's another overachiever. Her notes were just wonderful, and they're highlighted and organized. And here's student four. All right. And some students like to glue in artworks, print them out at home and glue them in. Some students sketch in their books. I insist that you sketch. And here is student five. All right. And you can see the quality of the notes here. All right. Look how much is written on these others. And then look how much is written on student five. Listen carefully. I'm not going to tell you how to take notes. This is your sketchbook, your notes. You use them for studying for your tests. You take notes as you see fit. All right. This student did well in class. This student did well in class. So, however you like to take notes, you be you. If you really, and if you love having these pictures in there, absolutely print out pictures and photos and glue them in. I highly recommend that. All right. I don't recommend not having many notes, but this worked for this student. He did well in class. All right. So you take the notes that you need to take. Now, you can see the difference between student three and student five. Student three takes a lot more notes than student five, and that's perfectly okay. Both these kids got the exact same grade on their notes, which was 100. If you take notes, you get 100. All right. If you do what I ask, you get 100. However, what would benefit? Like, so what's the point of taking a lot of notes? And the benefit is that when you are taking your test, I will allow you to use your sketchbook for short periods of time. So the better notes you have in your sketchbook, the better they can help you on tests. So that's why you should take good notes. All right. So with each chapter that we do, I am going to ask you to draw 5 pictures from the artworks that we look at. So, some students draw those artworks embedded in with the notes. And then some students, you see on the right, they do all their sketches at the end of the chapter. So, they might do their sketches at home or in another class. And whereas the student on the left is doing his sketches while we're looking at the notes. And again, you be you. Whatever works for you, you do that. All right. I'm not going to tell you how to do the sketches. And by the way, these sketches should take about a minute each. All right. I'm not expecting great works of art on these little chapter sketches. All right. Now, another part of your sketchbook is your detailed drawing. So I'm going to ask you guys once per unit to do a detailed drawing. I want you to spend 2 hours on drawing one work of art. And the reason why is that I think you can see more by drawing a work of art with all its details than just looking at it and moving on or writing about it. So I found this one of the articles that I had to read while I was in grad school was this art historian, and she was studying the figures of the Cycladic islands, and she drew in high detail the figures that she was studying because the photographs just were not showing the details that she was seeing with her eyes. So she enhanced the research that she was doing by doing the drawings. So the picture on the right is her drawing of the sculpture on the left. All right. Now these are again, this is on the right. That's her drawing of the figure that is on the left.
So she learned a lot by drawing the figures, and I want you to learn by drawing the figures. Now, these are very high quality and take a lot of time that I'm asking of you guys. So here is a typical student, their sketchbook. So on the left is the notes. You can see the little five little sketches for the chapter, and on the right is the detailed drawing that they spent 2 hours on. All right, so here's the artwork that they are drawing from. And you can use colored pencil, you can use pencil, you can use pen. Some students like to use paint. And here are just some other examples of detailed drawings that I've had in my class. Now, this student, I wanted to show you this student. These two detailed drawings are unfinished, and that's okay because they hit their 2 hour mark. So to finish this drawing, they would go well over 2 hours of drawing, and I'm not asking that of you. I'm asking for 2 hours every time. So I think he got what he needed from the 2 hours. All right. Does that make sense? So once you hit your 2 hours, you can stop working on the drawing. And then here is an example of what not to do. All right. On your detailed drawing, you should not turn in stuff like this. Now, I don't expect all of you to be accomplished artists. In fact, I think most of you are not. You are allowed to trace, all right, to draw your picture. So you can, have it up on your computer screen, put your piece of paper up and trace it and then color it in and, spend your 2 hours, of all the details. But this is not acceptable. Okay. All right. So that is, I told you about the sketchbook. I showed you where the textbook is. Schoology. And this is us, Chad. Um, I've been, let's see. Yeah, these are, this is stuff for the exam that we'll have. And I'll explain these assignments a little bit later. But so we're right here in Unit 1, and I'll be putting assignments in here. Whoops. And then here's instructions for the beast as we go in through as we begin working on the beast. I'll be giving instructions for that. They're all in there. And turning in late work here is for your high school grade. All right, I'll accept late work for high school grade. For your college grade, they have told me not to allow you guys to turn in late work. All right, so you got to turn your college stuff in on time. So, and basically that's um, it's the exams and the beast. There might be a couple of other assignments. All right. Okay, let's get started. Are there any questions so far? Okay, you're going to see this slide every time with art history as we get into a chapter. So there's so much art history and never enough time to cover it all. So let's go run through the art museum. All right, so let's go to page 10. I want you to start on page 10. All right, and up here is a reminder in the header of the next empty space of your empty page of your sketchbook, write chapter 1. So we made the header for page 10. So up in the header of page 10, you're going to write chapter 1. And on every page that is notes for chapter 1, you're going to write chapter 1 in the header. Some people may take up 20 pages for notes for chapter 1. Highly unlikely, but some people may only do 1 page for notes. So as I'm grading your sketchbooks, I need to see what these notes are about. And when students don't have a header up there telling me this is chapter 1 notes, I get lost, and it's difficult for me to grade your sketchbooks. So every page that we're taking notes, write what chapter we're on at the top. Got it? All right. And then move on. It's a reminder that to write and then also page 10. So go to your table of contents, find chapter 1, and next to chapter 1, next to that dotted line, I want you to write 10. That's the page that we're starting on. And when we start chapter 2, everybody's going to be on a different page when we start that, okay? And then this is also a reminder that 5 hand-drawn sketches per chapter. Okay, let's begin. What does BC stand for? That is correct. Correct. I heard somebody say before Christ. Then what does AD stand for? Oh, by the way, anything that's written in green, I want you to write down. All right, it's something that'll be on the test for definite. Anything that is written in purple, it's the concept I want you to know, not those particular words. All right, so things that are in green are definitely going to be on the test. Things that are in like this purple color are going to be, it's the concept that I want you to know. So pay attention to that. Take your own notes for that. All right, what does AD stand for? It is Latin. That is correct. It means the year of our Lord. What does year? What is year in Latin, or even in Spanish? The word year in Spanish is ano, right? And our Lord in Spanish, what would that be? Not that would be Christ. Right. Anyways, uh, Anno Domini, right, is Latin for the year of our Lord. I'm so glad you didn't say after death. That's what everybody says when I ask this question, and that is a uh, uh, incorrect statement. All right, now in modern textbooks, you'll see BCE. What does BCE stand for? Before the Common Era. It's the same thing as BC. And then CE would mean Common Era. All right, now, um, why would they change from BC to BCE and AD to CE? And the change is to make it religious neutral, whereas BC and AD are Christian terms, and not everybody in the world is Christian. So they changed it to make it more uh, neutral. Now, I am old school, and so I'll be using BC and AD. If you want to use BCE and CE, that's fine with me. There's also another term that I came across when doing art history, and it's called BP. And I've seen this a few times in art history. And BP stands for before the present. All right, so we're going to start our art history journey with the Paleolithic era. And paleo means old. What does lith mean? It's okay. Lith means stone. There's a printing process called lithography where they print with stones. A monolith is a large stone. Are we good to go? All right, so we are starting around 30,000 BC and we're starting with the Cro Magnon. So these are what the Cro Magnon looked like. And with the Paleolithic era, human beings began to create intentional manufactured objects. And this is a time when humans changed from makers of stone tools to artists. And Paleolithic art refers to the late Upper Paleolithic era. So this began roughly around 40,000 years ago and lasted through the Pleistocene Ice Age, which ended about 8,000 BCE or BC. And this is the rise of the Homo sapiens and their ever developing ability to create tools and weapons. So these early civilizations had no concept of art. And everything they made had a primary purpose. Right? And there was no aesthetic purpose. Does everybody know what aesthetic means? Aesthetic is how something looks. So if I'm looking at a hot rod with a flame job on it and I say I like the aesthetics of that car, am I talking about how fast that car goes? I'm talking about how the car looks. All right. So are we good? All right. So let's get into the art. So the first place that we're going to look at is in Africa. On this map, can you find Africa? Yes, it is the easiest continent to find. All right. So if you don't know where Africa is, you really need to know. So if we get a close look at Africa, now the next question is where is Nambia? It's okay. I don't expect you to know. I didn't know when I was doing this. All right. So archaeologist Wolfgang Erich Wendt was working on in this cave when he heard that the Apollo. So we'll get to that in a second. All right. Nambia is down there. All right, so then we're going to look for the Apollo 11 cave, which is in Nambia. And so the archaeologist was working in the cave when he heard that the Apollo 11 spacecraft landed back on Earth. And so he called it the Apollo 11 cave. So the first works of art in history come from Africa. And this is what they look like. These are the Apollo 11 stones. All right, and one source tells me that these are 23,000 BC. Another source told me 27. Another source told me 25,000 BC. So they're just guessing as to the age of the stones and the age of the pigment. These are 7 small portable stone fragments with charcoal on them. Also, as we take these notes, I will have the titles up at the top of the picture, the dates. So the titles will be in the top left, dates will be in the top right, and then the style of the artwork or the era of the artwork will be in the lower right. So that and also I like having that era at the lower right because sometimes students like tune in and out. And so if you've tuned out for a while and you can look up and see where we are. All right, so if we get a closer look at this one right here, these are the oldest pieces of mobile art. And mobile art means you can carry it with you. Most of the art from this era is not mobile. Like things that you can carry with you get broken over time, they get lost over time. And so having a mobile work of art that is this old is very rare. Not just very rare, extremely rare. All right, I'm going to give you guys a vocabulary term, and that is a profile view. And basically, it's the side view of something. If I stood up here to the side and you're just looking at the profile view of my face, you're seeing one eye, one ear, one nostril, half my mouth, etc. That is a profile view. If I look at you like this is a frontal view. So the animal that is on here, we are seeing from the side. We're not seeing it from the front. We're not seeing it from a three-quarter view. It is a profile view. All right, so our next artwork is going to be found in Europe. Where is Europe on this map? That is correct. It's just above Africa. That is correct. And then we're going to go to Western Europe. What countries are in Western Europe? Yes, Great Britain is in Western Europe. The colored ones are Western Europe. So, what are some of the countries? Yes, Italy is in Western Europe. This is France. This is Spain, England, and Ireland, Germany, Sweden, Finland, Austria. Yes. All right. And then in Eastern Europe, okay, yeah, in Eastern Europe are some of the other European countries that I'm not as familiar with. However, you've heard of Ukraine, right? So this is Ukraine, and they're in war right now with Russia. And then right above it is Belarus. This is Turkey over here. And basically, these are all the countries that split off from the Soviet Union when the Soviet Union fell. All right, so in here, which one is Germany? Yeah, Germany kind of looks like Pac-Man. Right? And then we're going to go to the southern Germany area, the Swabia area, and there's this cave in there. And we're going to look at these bone fragments that were found in the cave. Hundreds of bone fragments were found. And this archaeologist took these bone fragments and assembled them together. And these are mammoth ivory fragments. What's a mammoth? Yeah. Then in 19, so his name is Joachim Hahn, and in 1969 he is putting these fragments together. Then comes along Elizabeth Schmidt, and she combines the bones in new ways, and she corrects his errors, and they all fit to make this figure right here. It's called Lion Head. It is a human with a feline head, like a lion head or a a cougar head or something. It is of unknown gender, and it's carved out of ivory with a flint knife. And so they wonder if this animal-headed human is a sorcerer or a magician, or is it a human dressed up as an animal? But this is the oldest zoomorphic sculpture in the world. Zoo means animal, morph means change. And it's one of the oldest figurative pieces of figurative art discovered. And the vast majority of prehistoric sculptures are either people or animals. I don't have a date with it. All right, and so on the left is a good drawing of it. You can see it from different points of view, and then on the right you can see this is an illustration showing what part of the bone it would have been from. And then in 2012, they disassembled it and reassembled it with new parts added in, and it looks like this now. Just kidding. All right. So now we're going to go to Austria. Where is Austria? What continent is Austria in? It's in Europe. So let's go to Europe. Which one of those is Austria? It's close to what? Yes, it is close to. It borders Germany and Italy. It's in between Germany and Italy. It's that red one right there. That's Austria. And we're going to go to the far side of the eastern portion of Austria, and we're going to go to Willendorf. Spelled with a W, pronounced with a V. Willendorf. Here's the archaeological site at Willendorf. And this is the figure, Venus of Willendorf. All right, she's 4 inches tall. How tall is 4 inches? Yeah, it fits in your hand, right? And she's made of oolitic limestone, which is not local to where they found it. So that means somebody carried it to where it was found. It was made in one place, carried to another place, and that is an important fact. The artist probably had a curved stone and accentuated with the carving. So it is highly likely that the stone that this was carved from looked a lot like this, and there were only minimal changes made to it to make it look like a woman. So he was probably looking at a stone and said, "Hey, that looks like a woman," and then carved it to make it look more like a woman. And she is not a specific woman. It's not actually Venus. She's called Venus. But she is a symbol of womanhood. All right, now, if you look at this woman, what kind of body style does she have? Is she thin or large? Yeah, she's large. All right. And this is an idealized woman. This is meant to be a desirable woman. So, why would a large woman be a desirable woman? Yes, right. It is large women were able to survive pregnancy better than thin women. Thin women would die in childbirth or afterwards. So large women were seen as more desirable because they could bear children. I do want to point out, do you see her arms? Her arms are going up over her breasts. So she's standing like this right here. And then she's faceless and has this odd hair. We'll get a close up of that. You can see how large this figure is. By the way, that's a copy of it, not the actual thing. And then we can, if we look at the detail, we have this texture in the hair. So it's hard to tell, did she have curly hair? Or was she wearing some sort of a hat? But this texture reminds me of crochet. And again, this goes to the idea of a desirable woman. So, like back in the 60s, there was this movie called 1 Million Years BC, and it starred Raquel Welch. And Raquel Welch was the most sexual and beautiful woman of that time in 1966. And many men desired Raquel Welch. And in the comic, it on the left, it is showing the difference in attitudes of what is beautiful and what is not. In 1966, Raquel Welch is the most beautiful, but in 20,000 BC, it is the Venus of Willendorf that he is holding that is the most beautiful. Because when you tell him over the phone you're built like a goddess, but he never took art history and is in for a shock. All right. Now we're going back to Europe and we're going to look for France. Which one is France? Yes, it's the big one to the left. Yes, it's the red one. All right. And we're going to go down to the southern part of France next to Spain. And there were three teenage brothers who were exploring a cave and they found this artwork called Two Bison. So in the cave, they found dig marks down in a lower part of the cave, and this type of clay was used on this sculpture. All right, we will finish with Two Bison tomorrow. We'll start over tomorrow. You can stop writing and go to second period. You don't. This is an experiment. I'm hoping that it will protect your book from falling apart. Okay.